Hi, everybody. I hope you are enjoying the festival so far. We're down to our last day. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Marge Tucker, who is an internationally award-winning quilter and is also teaching for us at Mid-Atlantic this week, and will be teaching at our Spring Quilt Festival online. I hope you enjoy this presentation right after this message.
Welcome to A Different Touch, your local Bernina dealer in Chesapeake, Virginia. A Different Touch will be the authorized Bernina dealer servicing Bernina sewing equipment and accessories at the online Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival, February the 24th through the 27th. We're all here to answer your questions and to help you with all your sewing needs. Visit our website daily for all updates and all show specials. Thank you.
Hi, Marge. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Diana. How are you?
Very good. Now, where are you Zooming from today?
I am Zooming from my studio in Rockland, Massachusetts. This is one that before the pandemic I would teach from, but now it's turned into my online studio production.
Well, that's nice. Are you enjoying the online teaching?
You know, I am. I was a little resistant at first to try it, but when I did, it was great. I really missed teaching, and this just provided me a great tool to reconnect with people and to make new connections with quilters.
That's great. Well, we're so happy to have you on today, Facebook Live during our Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival online. Well, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I grew up in Minnesota, so we had lots of cold, wintry weather there. And growing up, I was always interested in making things. I was at one point really fascinated with doll houses, so I would make little doll houses out of, just boxes and things that we had. So I was always like making things growing up, but I was also interested in science. So when I went to college, I majored in biology, and then I also started a master's program in molecular biology. But I was also, really interested still in making things. My mom taught me to sew, so I made clothes for myself for a long time, and then things for the home and stuff like that. So that's where I started getting sewing. But it didn't really turn into a profession for me until much later. It was just a hobby for a long time. But I didn't finish the master's because I was just so much more interested in cooking and other activities. I didn't see myself pursuing the science background. I was drawn to other directions. And I've kind of lived a bit around the place. When I did my master's, I was in Calgary, Alberta. So I lived there for a while, and I've lived in some other places around the States. And now I'm outside of Boston.
That's awesome. And molecular biology, that's quite the master's.
Yeah.
And then you got started in textile arts. How did you go from biology to textile arts?
Well, again, I was always sewing. And then I had friends, when I was doing my master's, I had friends that were expecting their first baby. And I wanted to make them a baby quilt because I thought that would make a great gift. So I, kind of struggled through that, really having no background in quilting. I checked out some books in the library and followed those. So I made that first quilt, and then I just kind of dabbled for a while in quilting. I was still just teaching myself, but then I finally took a quilting first class, and that's when it really clicked with me for quilting, because I learned these great techniques of how to, put the quilts together. And after that class, I really could not get enough of quilting. And I eventually started teaching at that quilt store. And that's just expanded from there, my teaching. So now I'm teaching to guilds across the country, and also at some great shows such as the Mancuso shows.
And we're so happy to have you teach with us. Now, what was your first quilting class that you taught
The
at the
first
store?
quilting, it was
Like what technique?
It was a strip piecing one. I think it's called like the bento box pattern, which is really popular. So that was the very first one I taught, and a variety of other classes since then.
And so how did your art form evolve from what you started teaching to what you're doing now?
Well, I started working improvisationally after I took a retreat with Gwen Marsden. She had these great retreats she would hold in Michigan in the fall of every year. So I signed up for one of those. And that just really changed how I approached quilting, and how you could, work very improvisationally and creatively and make very unique quilts that you are designing yourself.
Yeah.
And she really supported me teaching in that manner. And she also supported me in, starting to exhibit my quilts as well.
That's great. Well, why don't we take a second or a few moments to look around your studio?
Sure. All right. I'm going to just, I'm going to start it when you walk into my studio.
Great.
And then I'll flip it around. Okay, so this is what you see when you come into my studio. It's a nice space, and I'm just going to turn.
Very big.
It is big. It's about 800 square feet. It's in an old shoe factory building that they've converted to artist studios. So you'll see a mix of some older quilts that I like to collect. There's a Touching Stars. Here are some quilts that I've made. That is Spark. That's a quilt that was one in Gwen Marsden's book, Minimal Quilt Making. We have this blue one called Looking Inward. This is one of my newer ones. It's kind of a favorite. It was just really fun to work with a log cabin, but just with two colors.
Very nice.
Thank you. So this is the Quilt Burst. This was shown at the Pacific International Quilt Festival in 2019.
I remember that one. That's a great quilt.
Thank you. Then we have, this is an older quilt. This is just an old string quilt that I've collected. It's just really small blocks. It's just a really, really cool quilt.
How did you get into collecting antique quilts?
Well, that was Gwen Marsden again. She would often bring her antique quilts to the retreats, and I was just really, struck by them. I just thought they were fantastic. All right, so here's a small little one, just small quilts. This is a black and white one called Give and Take. And it's
that's
a very
part of your workshop that you're going to be teaching in the spring?
Yes, it's a variation on what you can do with the technique I teach in eelgrass and eddies.
That's great. Great two-color quilt. Thank
you. Here's another one. This one is called Split Cherry. Again, this was in one of Gwen Marsden's book, Minimal Quilts. Again, another smaller one done in blues.
Do you tend to quilt larger quilts or smaller quilts?
Well, it's fun to mix it up. With smaller quilts, you can definitely be done a lot sooner than with larger quilts. This one, I didn't have a name for this for a long time. Someone suggested Coming Into Light. This is actually a variation on the Harlequin Diamond Romance class that is at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival. And this one is done in solids.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. So this next, you're going to see a little bit of my production studio that I have set up. On my design wall is Eelgrass and Eddies. That's a class I'll be teaching for the Spring Quilt Festival. Again, same technique as the black and white, but it looks really different.
Very cool.
And then again, I have a little bit more like with my sewing machine is in here for demoing in class.
So you use this studio more for teaching rather than your own sewing?
I do. If I have a really big project, I will come here and use the big tables that I have set up. So now you see, this is the Harlequin Diamond Romance. This is with the dark and light prints. Get those great diamonds forming.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about that Harlequin Diamond Romance class that you are teaching this week at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival. What can students expect to learn in that class?
Well, they'll learn how to make these great improvisational piece rectangular blocks. And when you put them together, you get these great light and dark diamonds forming. It's really this is a scrappy quilt, but it just, using this technique, that ends up looking fantastic. I don't think it really looks like a scrap quilt, but it is. And then as we saw with the other one with solids, it can be a totally different look with whatever fabrics you choose.
Yeah, it's a great quilt. And then you're also teaching another class during Mid-Atlantic, the Sunshine Stars.
That's right. And that's what you should be seeing now. In this one, I teach how to make these great improvisational piece stars. And, each star, when you work improvisationally, everything turns out unique and different, which is something I really enjoy. It really keeps you engaged. So we have like a small improvisational star as a center for the larger one. And then that great border of yellow stars and kind of those nice pink and red fabrics.
What do you think the importance of, choosing your fabric colors in a class like this, and as well as in the Harlequin Diamond?
Yeah, so value is very important so that you can, I think, clearly see the design elements. For the star, for Sunshine Stars, you definitely want to see those, great stars that you piece. So I always try to hone in on, using value, definitely having lights and darks and not just all mediums mixed in.
That's really nice. Really
okay,
nice.
So I'm just going to come around here. You can see out the window, it is lightly snowing out there.
Beautiful. Nice view.
Yeah, it's a nice view. So here's some of the and some antique quilts that I have that are done improvisationally. This is a wool crazy quilt. And then we have this kind of really graphic double wedding ring quilt. This is one of my favorite ones. It's really rare to see lots of these improv curves in an old quilt. This is probably from the 30s or 40s. Wow. And I just love these curves that were pieced in. I think.
Now, where did you find that quilt?
I found this at an antique show, and here they have a vintage and antique fabric show and sale in Western Massachusetts, and there's all kinds of great clothing and fiber, and there's a great person who sells quilts, and this is from her.
That's awesome.
Thanks. It's a little bit color and some more quilts. This is a log cabin from the 30s or 40s. Again, all improvisationally pieced.
How do you think the quilting has changed from, those pieces in the 30s and 40s to what quilters are creating these days?
Do you mean it's actually the piecing or like the physical quilting, the 3 layers?
The piecing.
The piecing. Well, I think so. These improv ones, I don't think it's really changed that much from what we're doing now. You know, they started with, some scraps and put them together into these like fabulous blocks. I don't know if it's really changed all that much with if you're working improvisation. I think we kind of still take the same techniques that the people who made these older ones used.
I guess if they say if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that's right. And just to wrap, this is another one. This one looks really modern with the blue and the white. Again, this is probably from the 30s. And just really, I just like that repetitive circle shape.
Yes, beautiful.
All right. So that's what I have going on in my studio.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You are teaching for us again at the Spring Quilt Festival online. That's at the end of April into May. You're teaching 2 workshops, the Modern Log Cabin and the one that's behind you, the Eelgrass and Eddies class. Can you tell us a little bit about those classes?
I can. So eelgrass and eddies, students will learn how to do a great technique. We will be freeform cutting curves and piecing those curves. And we get these great reverse image shapes by using this technique that you can use. The longer pieces, you can cut them into smaller rectangles, which is what I did for eelgrass and eddies. You can see they're smaller rectangles, but you can also cut them into squares and make half square triangles with them, which is what I did for the black and white quilt, give and take.
Well, that's great. And then the Modern Log Cabin, what can students expect to learn in that class?
Well, we're going to learn some great improvisational piecing techniques. We'll start with the familiar block to people, the log cabin, but then we don't have to follow the rules of a log cabin. We can use all sorts of different colors. We can use all sorts of different shapes, logs. We can do wedges. I'll show you how to do some little inserts that we can put into these blocks just to make some beautiful, unique log cabin blocks.
That's great. It sounds like a great class. Everybody who's watching out there, if you are interested in registering for Marge Tucker's 2 workshops in the spring, you can visit our website, www.quiltfest.com. Keep checking. We'll be having the registration open very soon. Marge, tell me what your favorite quilting tool is.
Well, actually, I think it has to be my sewing machine. I use my sewing machine a lot. I have a Bernina 830, which I love. I've had her for a long time, and she's just great. She's just reliable and is just always ready to go when I'm ready to go.
Well, that's always nice.
It is.
It's nice to have something you can rely on.
Yeah.
What do you do when you're not quilting?
Oh, well, a lot of times I'm actually like looking at quilts. It's really, again, I just am totally obsessed with quilting. So I'm like thinking about quilts. I'm looking at quilts. I'm looking at older quilts. When I'm not doing that, I do love to cook. So I've been doing some more cooking and hanging out with my pups. I have 2 pups, Olive and Henry. And so they're kind of liking me being around more, so they get more cuddle time. And this summer my husband and I just took a little trip to Cape Cod and spent some time on the beach. So that's nice. So we do like to travel.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
I can't wait till we can get on the beach again.
Exactly.
I'm over the snow.
Yeah.
Have you brought any of your science background, into your quilting?
No, I really have not. My husband's a scientist, so I kind of get my science fix there, but no, I haven't brought that science into my quilting.
Right. You switched your passions.
Exactly.
You went from one passion to the other, which is totally fine. That's what a lot of people do, I think, in their lives.
Yeah.
Well, is there one thing that nobody knows about you?
No, well, I don't think so. My husband actually knows pretty much everything about me. But one thing that people don't notice about me is I have 2 different colored eyes. I have a blue and a brown eye. So most people don't realize that.
Oh my gosh, I did not notice that at all, but that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
That is so neat.
Yeah.
Well, Marge, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for showing us around your studio, showing us those beautiful antique quilts that you've collected, and talking a little bit more about the classes that you're teaching this week and as well as in our next online festival.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. I look forward to teaching for Make Use of Shows.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that presentation with Marge Tucker. Such a great instructor, such a great woman, and I was happy to sit down with her. Again, if you are interested, she will be teaching for us in the Spring Quilt Festival online, and registration should open pretty soon, so just check on our website, quiltfest.com. Up next, I will be back with Esterita Austin. We are going to sit down and have ourselves a little chat. Thanks so much. See you soon.